I used to wonder about this in my own life too. You sit down with a book, and suddenly it just feels so hard to get through a single chapter. Welcome to this explainer. I'm so glad you're here with me today because we're going to explore a quiet but truly profound shift that is touching almost all of our lives right now. Why reading is seemingly becoming harder for people all over the world. Have you ever reached the absolute bottom of a page and realized you literally don't remember a single sentence you just read? Take a moment and really think about that feeling. You're holding the book, your eyes are moving across the words, but your mind is just miles away. If that sounds familiar, I really want you to know you're far from alone.
Part 1. The Modern Reading Mystery. What changed?
Millions of us around the world, students, professionals, even people who used to absolutely devour novels every week, are finding it incredibly hard to focus on text lately. And when we face this struggle, it's so easy to blame ourselves, right? To think we've just lost our willpower. But here is the most fascinating part of this mystery. Books haven't changed. The words on the page are exactly the same. So what did change? Well, science is showing us that it isn't a drop in intelligence. Our brains are actually just adapting to our modern environment. Think about how reading used to happen. We'd sit for long periods, completely immersed in a single narrative with almost zero interruptions. That's a state known as deep reading. But today, our daily environment is incredibly different. We constantly practice context switching, consuming information in these tiny, rapid-fire bursts. Our brains are incredibly efficient learning machines, and honestly, they're just perfectly adapting to a world of endless, bite-sized stimulation. So this brings us to a really crucial question. What invisible habit is secretly making sitting down with a book feel so mentally exhausting? To uncover the answer, we have to look beneath the surface and understand how the mind actually processes text.
Part 2. Inside the Reading Brain. The Science of Attention.
When we look at the science of attention, it becomes incredibly clear that reading is not just one simple action. It's actually this beautifully intricate dance of neural networks. Cognitive scientist Marianne Wolf points out that the brain doesn't have just a single reading center. Instead, we use our working memory to hold on to the beginning of a sentence, we use our attention to block out the world, we rely on language processing to decode the words, and mental visualization to actually imagine the scenes. All of these delicate systems must sync up perfectly for us to comprehend what we're reading.
And when they do sync up, it's kind of magical. These networks allow for slower cognitive processes like critical thinking, personal reflection, imagination, and empathy. That is deep reading. But here's the catch. Because reading requires so many systems working together in harmony, it is highly fragile. When we're interrupted by digital pings, these delicate networks just fall apart. Your brain is forced to restart the entire reading process from scratch. And every single time it restarts, you pay a compounding mental cost. No wonder you feel exhausted.
But, recognizing that our brain is struggling with interruptions is really only half the story. We have to ask, what's actually driving these constant, relentless interruptions in our daily lives? Part 3. The Digital Attention Economy, a Biological Mismatch. Here's the relief. The culprit isn't a flaw in your character. It's the digital attention economy. You are basically experiencing a biological mismatch between your slower-paced brain and a hyper-stimulated environment. Let's define that. The attention economy is an environment where platforms are literally competing for and monetizing your human attention. Infinite scrolling, autoplay, push notifications, these are meticulously engineered to keep your brain hooked on rapid novelty. So when your brain expects a dopamine hit every 3 seconds, slowing down for a static page feels unusually demanding. The impact of this is especially intense on younger, developing brains. In his book, The Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt explores what he calls the phone-based childhood. He identifies this massive cultural shift that happened around 2012, where childhood rapidly moved away from real-world play and independence straight into screens and social media. This constant notification culture is literally wiring kids for attention fragmentation and, very often, anxiety. But Haidt doesn't just point out the problem. He actually offers actionable solutions to roll back these habits. He proposes 4 collective norms to help protect the next generation. First, no smartphones before high school. Second, no social media before age 16. Third, establishing phone-free schools from bell to bell. And fourth, intentionally encouraging way more free play in the real world. By acting together on these, we can create essential guardrails against the attention economy. So, considering we are all living in this exact same, highly distracting digital world,
You might be wondering why some people still manage to finish huge, complex books. Like, what is their secret?
Part 4. Reading is like fitness. Rebuilding the muscle. The secret is surprisingly simple and honestly, deeply encouraging. Reading is like fitness. It's a cognitive skill, not a fixed personality trait. Think of it like this. Scrolling through hundreds of short posts is like training for a sprint. You're moving fast in short bursts. Reading a book, however, is a marathon. It requires real mental endurance. If you train exclusively for a sprint every single day and suddenly step up to run a marathon, well, of course it's going to feel impossibly exhausting. We just need to build a different kind of stamina. And the beautiful truth of neuroscience is neuroplasticity. Our brains remain adaptable throughout our entire lives, meaning attention absolutely grows with practice. That initial friction you feel when you open a book, that urge to check your phone after just 2 minutes, that isn't a sign that you can't read anymore. It is simply your brain going through the slightly uncomfortable adjustment of moving from constant stimulation back to sustained focus. So, how do we actually rebuild that muscle? You can start with a very gentle daily cognitive fitness routine. Step 1, try setting a timer for just 10 minutes. Step 2, leave your phone in another room so there are absolutely no alerts. Step 3, aim to read just one chapter, or even just a few pages. And step 4, try to do it at the same time every day. Remember, daily progress matters so much more than perfection. Your brain just needs to remember how to pace itself. Part 5, returning to the page. A biliterate brain. As we look toward the future, we don't have to view this as a war between books and technology. You definitely don't have to throw your phone into the ocean. Marianne Wolf beautifully proposes that our goal should simply be to develop a biliterate reading brain. This means we can adapt and thrive in digital mediums. We can totally skim and scroll when we need to. But crucially, we intentionally preserve and protect our capacity for the slow, empathetic power of deep reading. We can actually have both. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this explainer is this. Your reading ability isn't disappearing. Your capacity to lose yourself in a wonderful story, to deeply understand a complex idea, and to empathize with someone else's experiences, it is all still right there inside you. It simply needs a little practice again. Maybe reading isn't becoming harder because we've changed forever. Maybe the world just became louder, and every quiet page is a chance to hear ourselves think again. If you enjoy exploring the science of learning, attention, and education, subscribe to MindSpark Ed. We'll keep asking the questions that help us all learn a little better together. Thank you so much for exploring this with me.